Welcome. I'm Ellen. I'm here to get you out of the chairs and sort of into your bodies. Pay attention to what's going on and just change, give it a micro break, or not so micro, a break in the middle of a day where you might be maintaining static postures, okay? Even if you're moving around a little bit, sitting does have its own typical contracted and weakened muscle groups. So we're going to take a break from sitting. It's ironic because I'm sitting, but this is an interesting thing. By just changing the position of my hips and rooting down through my sitting bones into gravity, it's a different setup for my hips and also for my entire spine. So we're going to play around a little bit today with changing our relationship to gravity in order to give our connective tissue a break, okay? So I'm a little bit reluctant to use props in general because I don't want to use any fancy props that you don't have, but I think everybody has a chair. And if you're interested, if we get around to using this prop, you can always just grab something. Even if it's a thick book or a cushion from your chair, anything will do when we get around to using the bolster. So I'll just remind everybody, take advantage of the format of online here to do only what's right for you and not think about, nobody else is watching. You can work safely in your own safe range of motion for today. No one should be working at their edge. We don't want to feel any twinges at our joints ever. Particularly, we have to be very protective of the knee and the shoulder joints, okay? It's okay. I don't think in a short situation like this, we're going to work our muscles to fatigue, but if you do, that's fine. No twinging at the joints. That's where we have to be very aware of working safely. So, I suggest you take a moment to get organized, take your shoes off if you haven't already, and bring yourself a chair. We're just going to start out by releasing the front of the hips. We're focusing on the hips today, okay? So we're going to start out by releasing the front of the hips. I like the irony of this pose because basically I am sitting in a chair, but rotated 90 degrees, right? This is exact. These are the exact angles if I would be sitting erect in a chair, but by supporting my calves, I'm allowing the fronts of the hips to slacken. So even though my hip flexors might be compressed now, they're certainly not lengthened yet. I'm going to actually sit even closer to the 90 to make the point. Even though my hips are still flexed, there is a slackening in the hip flexors that I can allow by just releasing to gravity, okay? Another thing that happens because of this changed relationship to gravity when I rotate my sitting in a chair position by 90 degrees is it takes the pressure off my lower spine, okay? You might notice that you have a little bit of space underneath your lower spine, like, for say a ladybug crawl through, okay? That is a return of your lower spine to its natural curve. It's very different from the way we might be sitting if we are, for example, hunched forward when we're working at our computer, okay? So even though it essentially looks like sitting in a chair, just rotated 90 degrees, the change in the relationship to gravity, the release to gravity of the hip flexors and the return of the lower spine to its neutral pose create a very, very different effort in those areas indeed. Okay, so let's just take a moment here and bring the attention to the hip flexors, bring the attention to the lower spine, allow the muscular effort of the spine to ease up, okay, and just with the exhalation, sink into the support of the mat. I'm going to assume you have a mat. If you don't have a mat, don't feel bad about it. You don't need a mat. I'll say the mat. It just means the supporting surface below you, okay? You can really take advantage of the chair supporting the calves as well. Your lower legs are supported by the chair, and the weight of the thighs is supported by the back of the pelvis. Okay, there's just no work going on in the front body to maintain this position. Okay, not in the core, not in the front of the hips. So this is a great introduction to what we want to do today, which is open up the front of the hips. Okay, we'll stay here for about another minute. Pay attention to the breath. Notice how your belly on the exhalation sinks towards the lower spine. Nobody here is, trying to stick or connect with the mat through the lower spine. No, we want an easy curve in the lower spine here. Return to natural postures. With the exhalation, again, be aware that the belly sinks down towards the easy lower spine. There's ease in the whole abdominal cavity, ease in the front of the hips, ease in the calf. You can take your attention up to the shoulders, okay, as they release to the back of the mat. Head is heavy, the neck is supported. There's very little effort to stay here because I'm supported by gravity. My full body is supported here by gravity. Okay, so let's slowly roll to one side to come out of this. Now, I really urge you to use a bit of a prop here. We're going to do a very easy and very effective hip opener. Grab a bolster here or a pillow or a book, okay? And put it underneath your pelvis, not underneath your lower back, but underneath your pelvis, and make sure that your heels are on the ground. Okay, and we're going to bring in one knee, grab one leg, the shin just below the knee, and bring that thigh in towards the belly, and feel the gradual release of the other hip in the front, okay? We're not doing anything extreme here. We allow things to open and soften gradually. That's how we avoid injury. You can feel that what's happened here is that the hip of the straight leg has opened like beyond 180 degrees. It would be as though you were sort of kicking something to the back of you. The foot is behind the hip. Just when we open something, it gives us an invitation to send our attention there, to send our breath there. Just stay here until that hip softens by itself. We don't actively have to ever stretch anything, okay? It's possible to do a completely restorative practice where we just release to gravity. That's not what we're going to do now, but we certainly don't need any active stretching to get an opening and a release in the front of the hip. Right now, we're getting it a different way. It's just a release. Slowly switch legs and bring the other leg in, and then straighten the leg that we were just holding. Okay, so the attention is on the front of the hip of the supporting leg. The heel should be touching the ground so that your foot is behind the hip, and we gently pull the shin of the bent leg in towards the belly. Okay, and we enjoy the opening of the front of the hip of the straight leg. It's an extremely safe and effective antidote to all that compressed hip flexion that goes on when we sit for a long time. You know, most people say their lower back hurts them, their shoulders hurt them, their wrists hurt them, their upper limbs hurt them. Not too many people say that the front of their hips hurt them. And yet, okay, there's a lot of compression that goes on there, and the hips are related to the lower spine, and we have to bring movement back in there, slowly and gently. Okay, straighten out the other leg. We don't want to have any pressure in the lower spine. Do not go into an exaggerated back bend here. Just see if you can really sink down through the pelvis. No strain on the lower spine. And have both both hips being gently opened by the feet being behind the line of the hips and knees. If you're feeling anything in the lower spine, gently come out of it. Okay? And now we can bring both feet to the floor and we can remove the bolster. I don't think we're going to be using it again. Okay, so staying with the idea of gentle hip opening, we're going to bring feet to the width of the mat. If you don't have a mat, that means bring your feet a little bit wider than your hips and let the knees fall to one side. Hold them there for a moment and breathe into the front of the top hip here too. It's a gentle opening. We don't want to feel any pulling at the knee. If you flex, if your top knee is pulling and you flex the foot, that should help. If it doesn't help, then you've gone too far, okay? Never, never any pulling at the knee or any strain in the shoulder. And roll the knees over to the other side. So we're keeping the shoulders down so that we're also, in addition to opening the front of the hips, getting a gentle lower spinal twist here. Shoulders down, knees over to one side. If I lifted my shoulders, I could actually open the hip a little more, but I wouldn't be getting the lower spinal twist. That would be the difference. So find what's right for you. I do suggest keeping the top foot flexed. It protects the knee. I'm a little bit blocked by the wall here. I don't feel like rearranging my mat, so don't worry that we just work around things that are in our way. One more time to each side. Okay, protect the knee, flex the foot, don't go too far. If the knee's speaking to you, just back your way out of it, okay? But if your knee is allowing it, then we want to go far enough to feel that gorgeous opening in the front of the top hip and over to the other side. Okay, let's move the hips in another direction. Let's do what's called the number 4 or a runner stretch here. So cross one ankle over the other thigh just above the knee and grab that thigh in. Gently, gently pull that thigh towards you, taking the top hip, the hip of the leg that's crossed over the other, taking that hip into a gentle external rotation. The hip moves, in 6 directions, 3 planes, 2 directions each. It moves flexed. I'm just demonstrating. You can stay where you are. It moves flexed and extended like we just did. It moves in towards the midline and away from the midline. And it also does external rotation and internal rotation. So we just want to bring some motion to the hips. Hips are related to lower spine, so easy hips also are reflected in an easy lower spine. And gently unwind. When we've held a position for more than, let's say several seconds, there is a release of the connective tissue. So we never want to spring out of it. And we always want to unwind slowly. So cross your other ankle over the thigh above the knee and gently pull your thigh of the supporting leg towards you. Pull it towards you and feel a opening in the external rotators of the raised hip. It's very asymmetric. Asymmetric poses are great. It also can help you notice how different you are on one side from the other. A lot of that is just anatomy, and yet some of it is a result of the way that we maintain, postures in our work and other parts of our life. Okay, let's come out. We're just gonna make sure the knees and feet are warmed up before we continue here. So raise one leg here and take a moment to just with your attention, draw that extremity back into its joint. Like notice the connectedness of the foot to the hip here. And this is great. I guess basically my favorite pose is legs up the wall pose. Anything that gets the blood flowing away from the legs is amazing, amazingly anti-fatiguing, okay, for tired feet and legs. So hold that one foot up and then begin to flex. Let's bring some motion into the ankle, okay? if you've been here before, then you know that I really recommend an articulating foot rest. It's a great idea to get movement in the ankles when we sit. Bending and flexing, and then circle the ankle one way. We use the feet a lot. We're going to use them a lot now. So let's make sure they're warmed up. Circle the foot the other way. Okay, and bend the knee. Bend the knee and straighten. And please remember, this is the only direction in which the knee was meant to move, okay? And that's why we never want to put sideways pressure on the knee. You know, we would never recommend pressing the knees open. Let's say, for example, we're sitting in like a tailor's pose. We never put any pressure on the knees sideways. Switch sides, raise the other leg, just hold it there for a moment. Let the full weight of the leg be supported by the back of the pelvis. Allow yourself to sink a little bit deeper. Surrender a little bit more to gravity here. Totally opposite of what we do all the time, anti-gravitational pose. Don't necessarily have to feel your lower back sinking into the mat here, just the pelvis. And point and flex. And circle. Foot one way from the ankle, not from the hip. It's the ankle that we want to bring movement into here. And the other. And bring both feet to the mat. Your heels, I guess more or less below the knee. I don't think we want the heels all the way in. We always have to protect the knees here. Okay, so let's say heels below your knees. And we just want to practice using our feet just to bring us up into a supported bridge pose. So press the floor away with your feet and feel only your tailbone lifting up. And then let the tailbone release. We're doing this to open the hips again. So we're going to send the weight a little bit towards the knees. We're going to send the pelvis towards the knees as we come up for a moment. And then we're going to let the weight fall all the way back from the knees through the front of the hips to the shoulders. Okay, so your hands are, not everybody's hands reach the mat here. It depends what's going on with your shoulders. If your hands don't reach the mat, then use your upper arms for support, okay? This is like, I think what we want to do here is send the weight to the shoulders. So it's the feet and the shoulders that are supporting you. And please make sure your lower spine is easy. That's the most important thing. Do not try and come up by extending the lower spine. We want to shorten the hamstrings to come up. The weight is between the shoulder blades. Don't let your knees fall out to the side. And feel the opening in the front of the hips. That's what we're going for here. And slowly, slowly, slowly squeeze yourself out. Like you're a paint roller and the floor is like a tray. Squeeze the fleshy part of your back out against the floor on the way down. Okay, and again, let's bring both knees into the chest and we're going to just rock it from side to side. It's a shame to leave the floor without giving ourselves a massage first, okay? The floor is terrific for releasing the soft and connective tissue of the back body. Just because we're concentrating on opening the front of the hips today doesn't mean we should ignore the back body when we're already in this great position to get a massage. Okay, come up to sitting. Knees are bent, both feet are on the mat. Feet are more or less hip width apart, and your hands are, your full palm is connecting with the floor. Fingers are facing your feet, okay? So what we're going to do here is, again, we're doing this to have a nice hip opener. We want to press the floor away, activate the feet, okay? Just notice we're going to be pressing through the balls of the toes and also through the heels. Press the floor away with your feet and with your hands, okay? And let the hips come up here. Now, it's not the lower spine that's raising the hips. And if you feel any pain in the front of your shoulders, then please back your weight out of this gently, okay? You want to be squeezing the shoulder blades together here, working the back body. And again, you can shorten the hamstrings, press the floor away with your feet. But definitely, you don't want to be exerting the lower spine here. Okay, you can let the head go back. Front body opener, hips, chest, fronts of the shoulders, throat. And slowly come back down. Okay. Let's take a moment in a cross-legged sitting pose, and I urge you, however you're sitting, take a second to pay attention to your sitting bones, and then switch your feet so that you cross your legs the awkward way, the way you don't normally cross them, and see how that feels. Okay, now I don't know what kind of props you guys have lying around, but if you need a prop, it doesn't have to be symmetric. If you need a prop underneath one knee, use it. If you need a prop under two knees, just grab anything in hand. You can grab a book and shove it under your thigh. We're working from home, so it shouldn't be a problem to find props. This is a pose where we need to feel supported. Okay, maybe your outsides of your calves are supported on your feet, maybe they're not. Now, just an important word here, because I said before never to put pressure on the knees from the inside or the outside. This, for example, is something that we would never do, okay? Pressing the knees when we're in any kind of a cross-legged sitting position. Just couldn't resist mentioning that. Okay, so what we want to do here is feel the points of contact with the mat from the outsides of the feet, the outsides of the tops of the thighs, and the sitting bones, and from a very stable base, allow our spine to stack itself in its optimal way so that we don't have to do any work from the muscles. Okay, we're using the structural building blocks of the spine, the vertebrae here, to distribute the weight to support everything that's above every vertebrae without too much reliance on supporting connective tissue. So it's like we're going for a building block structure here without too much reliance on supporting cables, okay? So just take a moment, down through the sitting bones, visualize those alternating curves of the spine. Root, 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 and then from that root system, just draw up, like a tree draws up sap, the exact same way. Draw up some ease along your spine, past your neck, through the head. Okay, we will do a very, very gentle warm up of the shoulders, just by bringing our arms above the head. So we're going to take the thumbs to the ground. Then when we get the hands to shoulder height, we're going to have our hands parallel to the ground, and then bring the palms together. Maybe your arms only come up to here, which is perfectly fine. Nobody said your arms have to get any closer than it's right for your shoulders for today. Okay? And then press some texturized air down. Let your hands be supported by that air for a moment when they come to shoulder height. And then take the thumbs down. So we're moving the shoulder from a forward rotation to a neutral position to an external rotation, okay? Also, this is called shoulders flexed. Not everybody can get here. If you can't get here, it might be to have like short, muscles in your back where they connect to the shoulder. It's not necessarily about shoulder tightness, so don't feel bad about it. Okay, on a given day, you might not be able to do what you do another day. Okay, again, the air has some texture. Compress the air between your hands. Take a moment here to scoot your shoulder blades down your spine. And again, compress the air. And when you get to the neutral position here, release the shoulders and just feel that texturized air supporting your arms. And bring the hands back down. Okay, let's try crossing our legs so that we see only one knee. Okay, now you might need to support one side of the pelvis. I don't recommend sitting on the heel, but you can if that works for you. You might need to just put some kind of a makeshift wedge under one side of the pelvis. We want to just see one knee here. So now our hips are both moving in past the midline. The hips are in adduction. And we're going to, whatever leg is on top, we're going to raise the other arm, okay? And then keep that elbow up, the hand comes down to rest either on the neck or between the shoulder blades. The hand that's the same side as the upper leg, bring the thumb down so that you take the shoulder into a forward rotation, okay, and then bring that hand up your back. Hands do not have to meet here, okay? Grab your shirt. You can grab a belt if you want. I'm grabbing my shirt and use the bottom hand to raise that top elbow. So we want to get the top shoulder as comfortably open as we can, okay? Now, let's have some resistance. We want the back, we're not going to a back bend here. We want the upper back to be pressing into the hands. It's not the hands pressing the back here, it's the back pressing the hands. We're stabilizing the chest area so that we get movement and ease only in the shoulders. It's very asymmetric here. We have one shoulder in forward rotation and one shoulder in an open rotation. The hips are pretty closed here. This is called cow face pose. It's a little complicated to explain why, but basically your hands are the ears and your legs are the lips of a cow. Take some imagination. Release the hands very, very, very slowly, okay? And switch sides, okay? We want to see only one knee. Take the hand that's the same side as the bottom leg, all right? And raise that hand up. You want to send that elbow up to the sky. Take your other hand out to the side. Rotate the shoulder forward by spinning the thumb down. And bring that hand up the back. Both hands should be connected through a piece of clothing or a belt or by touching. My hands don't touch. Don't reach. Okay, we want to open the shoulder of the raised arm in a very comfortable way. Keep the chest, the rib cage stable. So it's just the shoulder that's opening up. We're stabilizing the rib cage and the torso so that we can have ease in the raised arm, ease in the front shoulder, and slowly, slowly release. Okay, now without untwisting your legs here, spin yourself onto the back so that you're still seeing only one knee. And you can grab your feet or your ankles or your shins, just grab somewhere and notice how much more accessible this position of the hips is when we just change the relationship to gravity. Okay, it's a lot more comfortable to have your legs in this position when the hips have slackened and release to gravity a little bit. Untwist the legs and other side. Just compare the accessibility of this position to what you experience sitting up, and you'll realize that just by changing the relationship to gravity, by lying down or even sitting and kind of arranging your spine so that gravity works, you're working with gravity, you're working with the pull of gravity to have a very stable structure there. There can be a lot less work, a lot fewer demands on the connective tissue. Okay, let's just sit again. We'll do a little bit of a seated cat-cow. We have to, get the spine moving. We're introducing very, very simple, gentle movement today, because that's really all we need. Okay, I try my hardest to avoid the word stretches, although, officially I'm here to do ergonomic stretches with you. I think stretches is the wrong idea. In any case, stretching is a result. You can't stretch a muscle, you can only contract the opposing muscle group, as muscles work in opposing pairs. So you can't stretch anyway, but all we really want to do is release and open and bring in gentle movement. So my hands are on my shins below the knee. I'm basically rocking back and forth on my sitting bones, and bringing chin to pelvis as I rock to the back of my sitting bones. And I'm setting my tailbone and the crown of my head will, upwards when I come forward. So this is movement of the spine in its extension and flexion, plane. Okay, in other words, it's bending and backward and forward plane. And this is a breath-based movement. As we inhale, we extend. As we exhale, we flex. The spine is basically, part of what's going on to create the movement for the breath here. Okay, and we will now warm up our spine in a sideways direction. A limber spine is the name of the game here. And a big phrase in yoga is that you are as young as your spine is supple. The spine is like the major highway for our central nervous system. So it's pretty important that we keep it limber. So let's again root down through two sitting bones. Bring one hand to the ground here to lengthen the spine. We always work from a long spine when we lean or twist, because we like to move the spine, if we can, in one direction at a time, and certainly with not too much compression on the nerves. Okay, so let's root down through the sitting bone we're about to lean away from, and lean. Now we don't want to go for a big sideways lean here. We want to lengthen one side of the spine without compressing the other too much. The main thing is root yourself down. We can't get any opening or ease unless we're anchored, unless we're stabilized, okay? It goes together. We set up the stability and the ease is the result. So root down through the sitting bone you're moving away from, and reach through the fingertips. Feel the opening of the vertebrae on the high side of your spine, and feel the separation of the ribs in the rib cage on the top side. It's easy to come out of these sideways leans always by flipping the palm to the ceiling and compressing the air down. Root down, set up the stability in the pose so we can enjoy the maximum ease. Root down through the sitting bone that you're going to be moving away from. And it's as though you're drawing the energy up, that high side of your body. You can even actually use your hand to do that, and then keep the chest open here. Don't lean. It's a nice, we only want this sideways opening of the spine. Again, it's always nice to flip the palm to the ceiling to come up. We'll do a spinal twist. We're going to do an easy spinal twist because easy is how we want to do everything. Okay, so raise both hands, lengthen the spine. The only way you can lengthen the spine is to anchor down at the sitting bones, okay, and then draw that energy up, okay, through the crown of your head, along the spine, through the crown of your head, from along the spine. Keep that axis, keep the center of your head over your tailbone and twist to the right. Now, please don't twist more than is comfortable for you right now, okay? I think a nice twist can just be with the breastbone facing where the knee is facing. If you like, you can bring your neck into the twist by looking over your back shoulder. If you don't want to bring your neck into the twist, gaze stays where the breastbone faces. back. Okay, again, raise the hands to decompress the spine. From a decompressed spine, twist the other way. Don't lean, don't let your head be leaning out to the side of the front. The head stays on top of the spine. Okay, the alternating curves of the spine haven't really changed here. They're just lengthening and twisting. Remember, the neck should be, deliberate, either deliberately straight ahead of you, your gaze pointing where the breastbone is pointing, or bringing the neck into the twist by looking over the back shoulder. Okay, come forward. You might want to raise your hips for a moment here, okay? Just do that safely here by entangling the knees. This is only if you have a cushion in hand, otherwise it's not necessary. We want to bring the hands behind us, okay? I don't know if you can see my hands, but my fingertips are on the ground, okay? And this is just for length. I'm not really leaning into the hands, so just keep my spine long. I want to do an upper spinal bend. Okay, keep this distance more or less fixed, the distance between your lower rib and your hip bone. Soften that lower rib, and from that point upward on your spine, just let the spine open, the chest float up. Relax the neck, soften the shoulders, and keep the lower rib soft, dropping into the hip bones. And come back up. And we'll come for a moment onto our knees. Okay, I suggest if you're using a mat, take an extra fold here. Okay, we're going to protect the knees. If you're not using a mat, maybe find something to raise your knees. I suggest that you do. Okay, so what we want to do is open the hips, challenge them a little bit. It's a safe joint. The knee is what we have to be careful of, all right? So we're going to press the pelvis forward and open the hip flexors, again, by bringing the hips forward of the knees. It's similar to what we did lying down, but we really want to press that pelvis forward. Protect the knees. Don't allow any strain to come into your knees. Don't allow any strain to come into your lower spine. Okay, so keep pressing the pelvis down and forward as you allow the chest to open up and the head to come back. The front body opener, hips, belly, chest, and shoulders. Do press your shoulder blades forward. Like do use the shoulder blades to squeeze the chest up. Keeping the lower back easy. Okay? Again, the lower ribs are soft, keeping a connection with the hip bones. You might want to try and open up the upper back a little bit more. And slowly come up. Now, we're going to come down from here onto all fours. And we'll give ourselves a back body stretch by going into a down dog here before we do a final relaxation. So place your hands to really support you, okay? They're going to be doing more work than the feet when we come up into down dog. Support yourself through the fingertips. Don't just dump all the weight of your body into your wrists. Take that weight out into the fingertips as a way of protecting the wrists. Raise your heels and raise your knees. Raise your knees and using your hands, send your hips up the back wall. Okay, do not worry about bringing your heels to the mat. That's not important at all. In fact, keep your heels in the air, but fill out your back body as you press the ground away with both hands right through the fingertips. Fill out the lower spine, fill out the area between the shoulder blades. Feel a stretch from your feet up the backs of the knees, through the pelvis. Tailbone connects to the head. Now, the tailbone, the pelvis is being pressed up and back from two directions, from the feet and from the head. Let the head go. Don't hold on to your head here. Just let the head be heavy. Look through your thighs. Come up onto your toes, walk it forward. Walk your feet forward to your hands. And soften your knees as you just hang down for a moment in a standing forward fold. Most important thing right now is don't feel any uncomfortable pull in your lower spine. We're doing this to do a final release of the spine, decompression, making lots of space there for the nerves to run through easy. It's okay if your legs are feeling a little fatigued, not okay if there's any strain on the lower back. Let the head go, again, let the head go. The neck is the continuation of the spine. And come up by pressing the floor away with your feet, no back. Okay, so if you have a chair, let's go back to the chair, okay, for the final relaxation pose. If you don't have a chair, you can just lie down on the ground. Okay. Now, I'm not saying this is a yoga practice or this isn't a yoga practice. I'm here to just interrupt the maintaining of static postures in your working day and help you to be more attentive to what's on in your bodies. But if this were a yoga practice, this is where the yoga happens, okay? This is not my idea. I'm quoting Judith Hanson-Lassiter here, one of the yoga greats. It's in the final relaxation pose when the central nervous system is allowed to reset itself, that all the benefits from everything we've done until now are integrated into your nervous system, okay? So let's just take a moment here to realize that this is where the good stuff is going on. This is the part that you never want to skip. Okay, allow yourself to surrender to gravity. Feel the support of the mat and everything that's below it. And observe observe what's going on as your body resets itself, okay? You may be feeling twitches or trembling or tiredness. It's just important here to pay attention, to notice that something has happened, that you have released some long-held contractions and closures. And this is a part where we just let whatever wants to happen, happen. Try not to go back to your to-do list just yet. Just stay here, be very present. That's why we keep our attention on the contact with the mat. It keeps us here and helps us to transition out of this in an intentional way. We're not just jumping to get back to. We don't want our mind to anticipate everything we have to do. We want to take the body awareness with us, and we want to take this feeling that we're connected to what's going on in our body with us into the rest of our day. Sitting isn't bad. That is a misconception. Sitting is not the new smoking. It's sitting without paying attention to what's going on in your body for long periods of time. That's the problem. So this, you know, this paying attention and just integrating the mind and body is so essential. Whatever is connecting you with the mat, let it really sink a little deeper, surrender to gravity with every exhalation so that the arches in your body, the natural curves, the part that are not connecting with the supporting surface, just get easier and easier. There's less and less effort to maintain them there. Lower spine is supported between the pelvis and the shoulders, and the neck is supported in between the anchor points of the shoulders and the head. So the back of your neck, the front of your throat, your jaws are easy and released. Make sure you're not holding on to anything in the front of the hips. If the knees and feet want to fall out to the side, let them. Just because the hip flexors are shortened doesn't mean that they are contracted. It doesn't mean that they are compressed. They're shortened, but they're slack because of this changed relationship to gravity. Okay, and with the corners of your mouth, just smile up a little bit towards your forehead. Release the forehead. It's almost like you can press a reset button in the area between the eyebrows and release it. So staying soft and rounded, roll onto one side. Just take a moment here for everything to settle to the mat, to settle down to the new points of connection, new bottom side of your body. And then push yourself up into a seated position. I've made an assumption here that we're all working sitting down. I hope it's not true. I hope there are people who are alternating or working postures throughout the day. A moment here to rely on the structural building blocks of your spine, to slacken the supporting cables, to draw the energy up from the base of your spine, one vertebra at a time. Lower back, mid back, the neck. And last but not least, floating up through the crown of your head. Stability allows for ease. Always possible to bring more ease into any posture. Okay, on the mat,